Hey guys, welcome back to Peak Vitality TV. This is Dan Kellams, and this is episode 2. And today's topic, and actually going to be a 3-part series, we're going to cover what's triggering my inflammation. And that's a big thing to talk about. So it's actually going to be broken down into 5 pieces, and today I'm going to cover 2. And the first trigger of inflammation is foods or micronutrients. So foods are a huge category. So when you're looking at inflammation, what's triggering your inflammation, the first thing I want you to do is be thinking about your food. With food, the first thing is, do you have a sensitivity to food? And the reason that occurs is maybe you eat too much of it, right? So you'll develop an intolerance to that, and that creates a food sensitivity. And that food sensitivity is going to create low levels of inflammation in the body. Also with food is going to be the micronutrients. Is there enough of what you're supposed to be getting? Because let's face it, the soil that we get our foods from is really depleted. So what happens is we have this situation where we have foods that are really high in macronutrients like carbohydrates and very low in micronutrients like minerals and vitamins. So we end up with a population that is overfed and malnourished at the same time. It's a weird conundrum to be in, but it's because our food is depleted. So we're not getting the micronutrients that we need. And we're getting some or too much, and we're supplementing. So we end up with this imbalance of micronutrients like iron and B12 and vitamin D, and you could go on and on. If you have too much of them, they can be inflammatory. If you don't have enough, they can result in inflammation and breakdown as well. So we said sensitivity, we said make sure the nutrients are balanced. Is there enough of what we're supposed to have? And the last piece is chemicals. Now the chemicals, that could be naturally occurring chemicals, like protective chemicals in plants like oxalates and phthalates. You might have a sensitivity to those. Another piece could be the chemicals that are used to help the plants or even the animals grow, like hormones, antibiotics, and glyphosate. That's a huge one. It just totally destroys and disrupts the body. So when it comes to your food, the thing to look at is there sensitivity? Are there balanced nutrients? And are there chemicals that can be causing inflammation? So that's your first category, foods. The second one is going to be bugs or microbes. And that kind of feeds right into talking about glyphosates, because glyphosate protects the plants against bacteria, but it destroys the bacteria in the soil and allows mold to grow. So when you're looking at the microbes in the body, we're looking at bacteria, viruses, funguses, mold, toxins, things like that. So some of these are going to be chronic infections, right? So if you have Lyme's disease or Epstein-Barr virus or cytomegalovirus, those are all they're going to create low levels of inflammation and deplete your immune system. But one of the major sources is the gut. Is the gut bacteria balanced out? That is one of the major sources of inflammation. So if you're looking for microbes, look for chronic infections like yeast, or you're going to look at viruses, or you're going to look at the gut bacteria, and those have to be balanced. So when it comes to microbes, it's just like nutrients. There has to be a balance. You need to have enough of the good stuff and enough of the other things so they work each other, because they all have their benefit. They call it commensal bacteria. So your first 2 categories when looking at inflammation or triggers of inflammation are going to be your foods and your micronutrients, and you're going to be looking at your microbes, your bacteria, your viruses, and your fungus. So tune in next week. I'm going to go over the next 2 categories of triggers of inflammation. So this way you know what to look for in your testing. And it's only by knowing these things can you create a plan to get you from where you're at to where you want to be. Hope everybody learned some good information, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Have a great day.